Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Hi everyone, it's Leah, and with me on this quick shot of romance is Rachel, who is Read with Rach on Instagram. Welcome back to the podcast, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
On this episode, we are reviewing Trusting Taylor by Susan Stoker. It is book 2 of her Silverstone series. Do you want to do the synopsis for us?
Yep. From New York Times bestselling author Susan Stoker comes a scorching Silverstone installment that finds a former military man racing to save the woman he loves as danger closes in on them both. Former military man turned government assassin Kellan Trowbridge isn't looking for love. He'd rather keep his head down at his cover job as an employee of Silverstone Towing. That all changes, however, when he meets Taylor Cardin. Beautiful, smart, and witty, Taylor instantly falls for the mysterious tow truck driver, who comforts her both in the aftermath of the car crash she sees firsthand and when the police dismiss her as a credible witness because of, I can't say that word.
Prosopagnosia.
Thank you. I'm like, I can't even with the pronunciation. Or face blindness. Eagle, on the other hand, can remember every person he's ever met. And the two counterparts forge an immediate connection. But someone else is just as intrigued by Taylor's unique condition as Eagle is, and his intentions are downright deadly. Soon, Eagle and Taylor are too caught up in each other to see the danger that's approaching. But as time runs out, they'll discover their love isn't the only thing fighting to survive.
Okay, so this released March 2nd, 2021. The tropes are protector, friends to lovers, heroine in danger, and we chose it as a steam level of 2 because it definitely is not as steamy as some of her other books, but I didn't miss it with this one. Like, I felt like the story, like it was a slow burn, which she doesn't really always do, and then like, but I wasn't disappointed about it.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It wasn't one of those books where I was like, okay, come on, like, what's going on with this relationship? Like, where's the steam? I thought it was really well paced. And like you said, I didn't really miss it at all. It had some steamy moments for sure, but wasn't her normal level.
Exactly.
And didn't miss it.
Yeah, because I don't think they even kissed until like 60% into the book or something like that. Or it might have actually been later than that.
Yeah, that sounds right, but I actually don't know because I didn't miss it. Normally in books, I'm like, they didn't even kiss until 50%. What's up with that?
I know. And then like we complain about it. But yeah, that's the thing. And I think part of it is she is one who always brings in different issues or conditions or like that she has amputees. She has like one of her characters was on the spectrum. Like she brings in a lot of diversity and like that aspect of it. And I think she was so focused on this one because Eagle he saw a face, he remembered it and like could tell you who it was, what their name was, and like all that information. And then Taylor, like she could see a person 6 different times within like an hour and couldn't tell you who it was. And I think that was the big thing. Like there was just so much emphasis on like their differences that she didn't need that steam this time around.
Yeah, I agree. I think the focus was definitely on character development and building up their friendship first, which she spent a lot of time on, and then eventually getting to the relationship type stuff.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like they really did. And even like she even puts in the book like how Kellan Eagle, because they don't ever refer to them as their real first names, but how he told Taylor like he really just wanted to get to know her because of her condition, and like she was really sad about it, but like as he kept talking, like it made her feel better because originally that was like his driving force, but like the more he talked to her and the more he got to know her, the more he liked her.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that it was like over the span of weeks and not days, which I can get behind Insta love. I have no problem with Insta love. It's refreshing for it to be, there's an instant connection.
But there's like a realistic timeline to it.
Exactly. It could happen in real life minus all the, secret
And I like too that she often will give you typically her males are strong. They're different sizes. Like she never has like, they're not all 6'2" and like beefy, but like there's tall, there's like short, there's like the heights are different, but they're all military people. So of course, like they have that natural like physical ability, but our female characters are not always teeny tiny little like people. Like they, like Taylor had a normal body. She was a normal person. Like she wasn't this cookie cutter, like tiny model that everybody like wants.
Yeah, I love that about Susan's books. And she very rarely has it where they might make comments about like, oh, I don't know what he sees in me, but it's not super prevalent. And you never get the feel that like Susan is saying that.
Right.
Right. Like the character might be, but I never feel like she's just like throwing in these normal type of characters. Like,
well, and one thing I've noticed too, like even if the character talks about like themselves in a negative way, like they're always open about it and they always like say it vocally, and like her other characters constantly are telling whoever like had the bad thing, like, you are not this person, you are attractive, like you are beautiful, like you are more than what you think you are. Like there's always that positive like versus the negative.
Yeah. And one thing I've also noticed is that it typically gets brought up like maybe 1 or 2 times. And then it's not something that just keeps coming up. It's not like a tired thing. It happens once they talk about it and then they're like over it.
Yeah, there's like the internalization, like when we first meet the character and she's like, he or she like has that internalization about like how they're feeling and why they're feeling the way they are. And then there's always some sort of conversation about it like a little bit later. And I mean, it might come up every once in a while, like in some way or another, but it's not ever like a sole focus of the book, where I feel like there are some books where it's like that internal angst is such a big focus, but the outside stuff is the focus in these books.
Right. Yeah. Like the body image issues or whatever issues aren't the conflict of the story.
Yeah, exactly. So I did have one tiny issue with this book. So she has her face blindness. And she doesn't recognize faces. And I get that. And I understand that. And I get that it's a real thing. But why doesn't she seem to like recognize voices? Or my feeling is maybe she does, but she just doesn't have the confidence like that she is hearing who it really is. Because if she has such a connection with Eagle, like you would think that she would hear his voice. And like, since they talk so much that like when he comes to the house and like she hears him through the door, like she would know who it was.
I had the exact same thoughts. Like I was reading through the notes and I was like, yes, this. I don't understand how she wouldn't like be able to tell the voices. I'm guessing it's a lack of confidence, like not knowing for sure. And I do think like sometimes people like sound the same. I don't know. Like sometimes like someone would like I've confused Alex and my dad before. And like they don't really like they didn't sound anything alike really.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, maybe it's like a lack of confidence, or maybe I just suck at hearing. I don't know.
Or maybe it's something where she thought that like she thought that she recognized somebody's voice, but it wasn't them, and so it really discouraged her from even like using that as like a standing point. Like because the one point in the story, like this woman comes up and like asks her how she's doing, and said like, and when Eagle introduces himself, like she finds out it's somebody who used to live in her complex. But I wonder if maybe it's a case where like she had seen somebody, they were talking and she thought it was somebody, but it wasn't them. And then they got upset because she didn't recognize who they were. And so now she just internalizes and doesn't really listen to those tiny little cues. But I mean, you figure she was put into foster care because she cried a lot because she didn't recognize her mother. And that would be very like emotionally and like mentally like challenging, like to go through the system in general, but then go through the system with this disability in a sense, because you go like you're going from house to house in general, and then you're going from house to house, but you can't recognize the people that you even are there with. So, and people are constantly going in and out in that situation. It's like, how could you even like take the time to like hone that skill almost?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I do wish it would have been touched on. It would have made it a little clearer, but I think it could be a confidence issue just in general.
I agree. But then there was that one point where she started recognizing like his feel and his smell. Like when he like hugged her that one time, like like towards the end, like when he found her after everything had happened, like she didn't know it was him because she was, I mean, I would have been a mess too. So like voices probably would not have been recognizable, but like when he like held her, like she could recognize his hold and his smell. And like, I like that, like, because she finally like felt so comfortable with him and so confident, like that he was there for her after everything, that she could recognize that feeling.
Yeah, I like that too. And she recognized smells a couple different times too.
Right. And that was a big part of it, because they had a conversation about like, she isn't able to use her sight as a standing point for anything. So she needed to really like pay attention to the things around her. And like, that's one of the things that she started to do. And so like the smell was a huge part of the story towards the end. Yeah, it was. But we won't tell you why. But it's good. But that was just crazy. That whole like separate storyline, like with that like situation, I was like, what kind of like psycho. Exactly. But it's just, I mean, it's just that's the type of person, like they prey on like weak, she's not weak by any means, but like she has this weakness. And so like he is preying on this weakness, and like, and then it escalates. And but as always, Eagle saves the day, and like the hero saves the day, and everything turns out okay. I got chills like every like section of that guy's part of the book. I'm like, oh my gosh, when's this gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Oh no, like. Well, and I thought it was interesting too, like there's a lot of times in these books that like she does not blatantly introduce the bad guy like she did in this one. Like it was like you knew who it was, what he was going to do. You didn't know how he was going to do it, but it's like you knew within, I think it was the first 6 or 7 chapters of the book, like exactly who was the bad guy. And then you had to wait for him to show back up. Yes, I was constantly like, is this when it's going to happen? Is this when it's going to happen? Like, but his parts were always like real, like there were small like snippets too, as like a little tease, and then she just moved on. It's like you wanted more of him, but then you didn't want more of him at the same time. Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, and then as usual, we got the ending snippet into the next book, which is Trusting Molly, which is not Gramps, it's the other one. What is his? Let me look. I don't remember, but we got like the introduction to the next one, but it doesn't come out. That there's only 4 of these. I know there's only 4, but it doesn't come out until July. So we have to wait for book 3 in July, and then who knows how long we'll have to wait for book 4, but it'll be good. It's Smoke. Okay. See, there we go. I couldn't remember. I was thinking Hawk, but I think that's a different probably series. Another one. Because she has a lot. Like she's constantly like releasing. I feel like almost every month is a release for her. Yeah, I think there's one in April. I think she skips either May or June. Like every once in a while, like she'll skip a month, but she's constantly on a rotation, and you don't ever get the same series in a row, which I like, but then I don't like at the same time because I really want this new book. But right now that I'm caught up on her backlist, like I've read everything, I'm like, no, like I need them in order. Now you have to wait for them. That's the downside of reading the backlist, because then you have to wait. Yes, exactly. And it's like in every one of her books, she like puts a teaser for like the next in the series, or even like the next 2. And I'm like,
But I need them now.
I know. I hate that delayed gratification.
I know. And to think I'm sitting here like I need them now and she writes like 10 books a year, but
I know. Like she doesn't give us enough.
Right.
All right, Rachel. So did you like this book?
I love this book. I flew through it.
Mm-hmm.
I read it in a day, even with like having to work. And I was like so upset when it ended because I wanted the next book so bad. I texted you and I was like, how am I supposed to wait for the next book?
I know. Yeah, I have yet to find one of her books that I don't like. Some I like more than others. Like she definitely has strong stories and like they're not weak stories, but like not like stories that they're not as good. But I think this one might be in one of my like the top 10 of hers. I mean, she has a lot of books out, but I think this is in the top 10 for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like this Silverstone series is like definitely creeping up towards my top.
Well, and it's kind of a variation. Like it's similar to like her military suspense ones, but it's different. Like they were in the military, but they're not anymore. It's on par with her mercenary series and her Ace Security series because like they were male. Like, well, Ace not so much, but they were ex like armed forces,
right? And
they take this new journey. They're veering, and I'm talking with my hands a lot tonight. Who would typically like this book?
I would say anyone who likes like the military romance, like romantic suspense, like Riley Edwards, and I'd say Kaylee Cross too. That's one that a lot of people haven't read, and I think if you like Susan Stoker, you'd love Kaylee Cross's books.
Yeah, like her Crimson Point, like that series is very similar in nature to this one, I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think anyone who likes the military suspense, Riley Edwards, like you say, Anna Hackett, she has some suspense. Like she does a little, like hers are a little different but similar. And then also Anna Blakely, who writes in Susan Stoker's Operation Alpha World also. So good protector romance people right there. So would you recommend this book?
Yes, I would definitely recommend it. I would definitely recommend it for romantic suspense fans, like the military romance fans. But I think that isn't like a huge part of it.
Right.
Well, the suspense is, of course, but like that's a big part of it. I take that back. But I would recommend it to any romance fan, really, because I think Susan tells a great story.
She does. And this one, I don't feel like the military aspect was super strong in this one. Like the suspense aspect was, but so if you like a really like good military romance, it would work for you. If you're like, iffy on the military romances, this is still good for you. Yeah. And I have recommended this book already, so I definitely would do it again. All right. Well, thank you for joining us in this quick shot of romance.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Bye, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at buzzingaboutromance or on Twitter at buzzingromance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.